So I'm excited.
I am excited too. I was actually on the Pogo train when it first came out. We had Casey, Bunny Hopper, a couple of others who were really hyping this up for a couple of weeks in Europe, and I kind of went with them. You know, I was sat at home waiting for my chance to get out here and join the cast, but I really like doubled down on this deck becoming a real force and played a ton of it. Had a great time doing it. It's one of my favorite decks.
But just a lot of bunny rabbits. And PNC, we just saw him defeat Monsanto in the initial match of this Group A for America's playoffs. This week's at Grandmasters, but he didn't want to give players the chance to see him play the deck and to maybe cook up some strategies or some counterplay to it.
Exactly what I was going to say, because I think if you start flexing really hard on like this deck is the best deck in the game, and then you bring it to specialist, like you become exploitable. So yeah, it's interesting that Fr0zen has save that stuff for playoffs as it comes down to it, but it's interesting because I kind of agree with everything that you just said. Like I said, I doubled down on this deck thinking that it was going to be really powerful. I do also think it can has game in just about every matchup when played very well. Also interesting to see Fr0zen including Heist Baron Togwaggle in his main deck, which is something that I said very early on, I think, when I joined Grandmasters, that to me that card is core in the deck and is very important to just providing a flexibility of strategies.
Get Wonderswan, pick up more bunny rabbits.
Oh, no, you're not thinking big enough, TJ. You Myras, you empty your deck, you put bunny rabbits in your deck, and then you gobble it. That's how that works.
Yeah, but if you do that, then you have to, like, wait a turn.
Sure, yeah, okay.
You know, they're not 0 mana, they're 1 mana.
Sure.
So there's a limit to how many you can play. Like 5.
My invention.
Yeah, that just doesn't sound good enough.
Would you rather have 50 stats on board or 50 stats on board next turn or 30 stats on board this turn? You have to have an answer right now.
The second one. Is that the right answer? Okay,
yeah.
Good.
That's the Wonderswan. In a weird psychology type way. Also, another interesting to note, as cards are being played, I know I don't usually pay attention to those types of things. Fr0zen came into playoffs with the best record, and PNC came into playoffs with the worst record. Fr0zen was 2 games ahead of any other player in Americas, and any other player in Europe.
Yeah.
With the highest player finished at 10 wins. 12-2, very impressive score.
Yeah, our division leaders actually really kind of fell off towards the end in Europe. It was looking like we were going to have the most dominant player going into playoffs, be that either Fino or Psycho, sorry. But yeah, Fr0zen just really started to put in an insane amount of work later on. Hunter Ace as well completed the clean sweep and like the second circuit through the round robin, picking up 7 straight wins at the end.
That's what happens when you cast Grandmasters. Your ability to play the game, recognize creative positions within Hearthstone games, be more handsome.
Yeah, just ask Alan. He took down Vegas right afterwards. Now he got those big bills like a platypus.
And if you ask me, I do think that he's more handsome now than he was before casting Grandmasters.
Oh, I don't think that's debatable. That is clear at this point.
Yeah. The Poker Hopper played early. No way to bounce it or shuffle right now. But I don't know.
No Witchwood Piper either, which is kind of interesting, because that's a dynamic that you do have to think about with Pogo Rogue, where if you have 1 bunny in your hand and you kind of expose it to the board and get it killed, then suddenly you get into potential situations where Shadow Step draws, Lab Recruiter draws, all that kind of stuff can be a little bit dead. Yeah. But that can be very easily solved if you have Witchwood Piper in your hand, because then you can freely play the first one and then have the ability to draw the second one.
As long as it keeps out arrows.
Turns out it's just going to live a turn anyway, which may solve that issue for Fr0zen if he's able to pick up some way to bounce or shuffle. But the one thing that this deck doesn't do as well as, for example, Purple Rogue is it doesn't have as many cards to apply pressure early on in the game. Like, it doesn't just have like meaty 3/3 bodies,
right?
Like Blink Fox, SI7 Agent, or Henchclan Burglar. So your early game is more spent like drawing cards and using like Phantom Knives and Shivs to kind of keep the board in check instead of bodies to fight. But the critical mass that you reach later on, much better, much higher potential.
It does reduce some of the power of that single copy of Frostbolt that PNC does play main deck, because one of the best uses of that against Rogue, one of the reasons that it's there is that it just buys you so much time. If they just play a 3-3 or a 4-3 and you can just cleanly Frostbolt it, not have to worry about, Ray of Frost, any of that kind of nonsense. But as you said, just a little bit less effective when those 3-3s and 4-3s aren't coming down. Yeah. PNC likely considering just holding here.
Yeah, if he holds it, it unlocks Conjurer's Calling for next turn, which he currently doesn't have another great way to do it. I don't think you're worried about a couple points of chip damage here. I guess it would be like a 4 health swing, because you'd also gain like 1 additional overkill trigger for armor.
Barista Lynchin is a consideration as well. You can take 1 extra Battlecry minion off the board this turn by attacking. Give your opponent a less powerful Barista.
Yeah. I wonder how much experience PNC actually has playing against Pogo Rogue, considering, he had 2 players to prepare for, which is normal Grandmasters week. I wonder how many games he just jammed against Pogo Hopper Rogue with his mage deck.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have up to 2 opponents to prepare for, right? You could end up, I think it does make sense to heavily skew your practice towards your first opponent, because first off, it's your first game, you have to win it. Secondly, you could end up just double jeopardying that same guy, and then at that point your practice pays off huge. So yeah, it's definitely a good question.
What to do?
Because you have to play differently, you have to think about different things.
Yeah.
Obviously, Highspare and Togwaggle, that's kind of ingrained into players' minds at this point. Kill the lackeys going into turn 6. Cool. Done. But when Barista Lynchin factors into things, and everything, all the breakpoints are off, their power turns, makes you think. Is it the Zandalari Templar? I was hoping that card would see play. If you restore 10 health this game, gain +4/+4 in taunt.
It was, I think, Heal Paladin was messed with right at the start.
Right at the beginning.
Yeah, and then everyone went, well, actually, healing isn't much of a win condition, and these, the Spellstone and this guy doesn't really, pay us off big enough. Yeah. Just kind of fell away.
All right, well, holding on to the coin for Fr0zen paying off. He's going to be able to Highspare and Togwaggle. Most likely Wondrous Wand pickup here. If he's feeling crazy, he can go for Zarg's Crown. If he's feeling absolutely stupid, he can go for the Kobold.
Either of the other two, yeah.
No.
No?
Are you a Goblet gamer?
Yeah. I am with this deck.
I always just wish that I would find myself in a position where Goblet was a choice, right? Was a correct choice.
Play some Pogo Rogue, my dude. You will find that situation. I promise you. It comes up.
I don't think so. I think I'm killing him or I'm dead way before that happens.
All right.
So the removal that Fr0zen has in the deck, you can obviously walk the plank to the far left. Outside of that, it's basically just small stuff. No saps. Copy of Shiv, 2 copies of Phantom Knives. The way you fight back with this board is essentially just with giant pogos.
Yes. Just honest damage most of the time. And it's curious, there's something that, when we're talking about that dynamic of when do you expose your pogo to the board, because if you play it, then you can't just immediately shuffle it if you pick up a Lab Recruiter. Well, there's a lot of matchups, and this one included, where going all in by just shuffling a bunch of pogo hoppers as soon as you can is actually sometimes detrimental, because actually in this matchup you need your draws to be immediately impactful. You want to find that walk the plank. You want to have Ziliax secured in your hand, because you're probably going to need it at some point. So loading up your deck with too many bunnies immediately and then just drawing a bunny every turn, it sounds good in theory, but when you're facing against a deck that can play 4 8/8s in one turn quite comfortably, sometimes that just isn't even good enough.
Yeah. But Fr0zen is going to find a nice way to clear up at least the big stuff off the board. He's going to take some significant damage in doing so, but finds Ziliax, which has Snip Step in hand, so that's a way to get some healing. But later on in the game, once his Poké Hoppers are massive, that's when you get that huge swing appeal.
And this is exactly what I was talking about and why I'm of the belief that this card is core to the deck. Sometimes your hand is just dry and you're stuck with a Lab Recruiter that you can't activate because you don't have a really good shuffle target. Ice Baron Togwaggle is just that card. He's just a way to find a different win condition through your deck, and in this spot, very much like Fr0zen's decision, and immediately gets paid off by picking up the second Ice Baron with Evil Cable Route in hand as well as an activate.
Yeah, the other hand of that equation is, what else is the Lab Recruiter doing? You're not guaranteed to pick up Witchwood Piper or a Poké Hopper.
Right.
And if it's just a dead card in your hand, that's not doing you anything.
Right. That's kind of my point, right? Is if you don't put Ice Baron Togwaggle in your deck, you end up with those kind of hands, and you're like, well, am I Lab Recruitering a Snip Snap into my deck? Like, is that going to be good enough?
Now, that does sound pretty appealing.
Fr0zen himself, right, that did the huge scheme on Snip Snap versus Warrior, found a way to win that way.
Yep. Those were some messy wins, by the way.
Were they?
They were, yes.
Why would you describe them as messy?
There was a lot of messiness. Him and Dog both brought the same anti-warrior rogue list the same week and both hit warriors, control warriors. And it was very interesting to see them both try and manage resources when they have way too many resources.
Okay.
Even gods bleed subtle. Did use both preps, though.
Did. There's a pretty juicy looking Shadow Step opportunity, though. Goes Cable Rat Lackey, that's 3. And he goes Togwaggle, steps it, and it's still 1 off from doing everything this turn, including the treasure. But 5/5 into a 4/3 and then step it, like that's just even without being able to cast the treasure, that's just gas right there.
Yeah. Doesn't have to worry about life total though. But has the Zilliax.
Oh! The boy!
Cobalt. Turn that Zilliax into 5 Zilliax. And this is where it gets awkward for PNC. No card draw. Does not have Luna's Pocket Galaxy rolling. No Archmage Tinnitus in hand or in sight. Magic Trick. Hit a Cinderstorm. All right. So how much damage? He can Banana Buffoon, plop 2 bananas, ping. That's 3 additional damage. Put him down to 11. Needs to find 8 more damage. Frostbolt, not really appealing in that scenario.
Well, he can do the banana buff up and still Frost Nova this turn, right? To protect his giant from the Patient Assassin.
True. If that's the case, I think Ray of Frost might be more valuable because you're relying on your Sea Giant to win the game at that point. So being able to freeze more targets the following turn. He just says, no, I want unexpected results.
Oh my God! That is insane. That now allows him to get off the Frost Nova plan and actually completely max out the amount of damage he has remaining on board.
The problem is Fan of Knives just kills all this board. He didn't Frost Nova.
That's fair.
So it ended up not working out particularly well for PNC.
Well, he's still clear. So if he Frost Novas that turn, like imagine
the mirror image.
Yeah, imagine the Pyro doesn't exist though, right? And like he just Frost Novas that turn, then the Patient Assassin is still there for the next turn and the next turn and the next turn. He still needs to deal with it. So like the Pyro has at least solved that problem for him.
But if you were to Frost over this turn and hit base, he'd set up for lethal the next turn.
Right.
Pyro kind of working against him just in this very specific scenario, being completely results-oriented.
Yeah. No,
Pyro ended up not being that, the thing that made the huge difference.
Fr0zen here with no real worries about continuing to just dig through his deck, just keeps taking ones. He knows if he gets down to the bottom of his deck anyway, he still has a Lab Recruiter remaining that, you know, when you get to the end of your deck with Pogo Rogue and you have a Lab Recruiter, those last 3 cards are going to win you the game if it stretches out that long.
Yeah, the problem is, though, he's used, like, the first Lab Recruiter on Heisper and Togwaggle, the first Shadow Step on Heisper and Togwaggle. The Pogos are not going to be that large. I guess with Spear of the Shark they will be.
Yeah.
But that's some setup, right? He needs turns some setup.
But at the moment, he has that because PNC is just so low on gas on his side.
Yeah. Unexpected results. Couple of Bluegill Warriors. Draw Archmage and Tinnitus off the top. Get the Fireball, win the game.
I wonder.
I see the lines. Do you see the lines?
If your definition of seeing the lines is agreeing with that plan you just made, then no. No, I don't see the lines.
That's a solid plan.
Okay.
You want me to make a PowerPoint?
Everyone's out on me.
We're just actively booing players now. That's where we are, is it?
No, this is a much safer play.
It's just time, right? Like, Ice Barrier gives you an extra turn, and I think, you know, playing towards just drawing one of the power cards from your deck is a much more reasonable out than trying to high roll unexpected results.
It is. He's looking for, like, Arcane Intellect, and he needs time to do additional things. And double Bluegill Warrior from unexpected results is an astronomically low percentage chance.
Yeah.
But a man can dream. I shall now officially rescind my boo.
I think it's a smart Snip Snap turn. It gives Fr0zen some flexibility going forward. It means if PNC, you know, tries to set up some kind of burn plan, like if there's a Mana Cyclone and suddenly Fr0zen has to play around the possibility of a Pyroblast coming down, he now has the big base for a Zilliax to hit. He needs to go down that route.
Yep.
Plus, it's just kind of the most pressure on the board that turn, just on a very vanilla level.
He has only seen one Frost Nova, so that's potentially could be scary.
Yeah.
In a emergency situation, he does have like Witchwood Piper, Pogo Hopper, Shadow Step, Pogo Hopper, Zilliax.
What to do?
Like, let's say Archmage and Tinnitus Frost Nova comes down. He has a way to deal with it.
Right.
PNC does nothing.
Nope.
Maybe.
Looking very similar to a game we watched Bunny play just a couple of hours ago. All right, there is Pogo number 2. That is just a 3/3 at this point, but he has so many tools in hand to get it cooking.
Yeah.
But these are kind of the decision points that you have to make with Pogo Rogue. Is does he feel like he can just push very aggressively now and seal the game, or does he want to play a more long-term strategy?
It's like a 98% win rate versus 100% win rate at this point.
Right.
He knows that 2 of the cards in PNC's hand are bananas. Obviously, he doesn't have, you know, a threat plus a combo.
So many options.
Still not the second Lab Recruiter left. That's still in the bottom 6 there. There also is still a Heisper and Togwaggle left in the deck.
Too soon.
There it is.
There's the lab.
And I'll shuffle 6 copies in.
Not doing it, just leaving it exposed to the board.
I guess in this scenario, it doesn't really matter too much. The likelihood that PNC stops his board pressure and also kills the Pogo,
Right.
very low.
I think holding on to it makes sense. He has a lot of flexibility here with, you know, what he wants to make those last 3 remaining cards if it gets to that point, and he's plenty in charge of the game right now. Like you said, like even if Frost Nova comes down, he has the ability to just step the Pogo, replay it, and strap the Zilliax to it. And like,
Yeah. The one thing that one scenario that I wanted to point out is, would you rather draw a Pogo next turn, or would you rather draw whatever cards remain in your deck?
I would counter that by saying that decision point almost doesn't matter because the other 9 cards in your hand are so good that you have such a minor influence from the card you draw anyway. So I value the flexibility of being able to adapt later more.
Okay. Fair point.
So many.
I'm really surprised he didn't Ziliax there.
I am too.
I'm pretty sure that this elemental evocation on the far left is randomly generated, which could very well be a Pyroblast. But if that was the case, he would have set up for Pyroblast a lot earlier. So Fr0zen not looking very happy about the turn, because maybe he's thinking, oh, I didn't play around Pyroblast. But I think that PNC showed signs that there's no burn damage in hand.
Well, even if it's a real copy of Evocation left, right? Like, even in a world where you're this far ahead, it's a one-outer, right? Evocation, Cyclone, hit the Pyro.
Yeah. Actually, that was lethal.
What?
Yeah, he hits with the 2/3 Snip Snap, Shadow Steps it, Ziliax magnetizes, double Snip Snap. That's makes up the 7 extra damage, so you just missed lethal.
Wait, say that again? Oh, you step the Snip Snap.
You step the Snip
3
Snap.
extras.
You hit with the 2/3 Snip Snap, you Shadow Step it, you play Ziliax for 5 mana, you play the second copy of Snip Snap for 1, and then you play the other copy of Snip Snap for 3. It's 9 mana, it makes up the 7 extra damage.
Yep, sounds right to me.
Unless he daggered up last turn and didn't have a dagger, that's the only way I can see him not having mana for that.
Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
So it may not have been a miss lethal, but that also would have put him way out of range. Yep. I'm trying to look back at the history. I don't know if he daggered up last turn, or if he had a dagger.
I'm almost out of cards.
No, I think it was one off. Because if he has 1 charge of dagger left, it means that
he daggered up
last turn. So it would have been one off, I think.
Even then, if the play puts them to 1, you're then
on a dagger up or lethal.
Yeah, and it like beats Frost Nova and all that kind of stuff, and you heal out of the range of all those like ridiculous one-outers we were talking about. That just seems right to me. I don't know.
So I was trying to count, and I wasn't paying attention to the hero power. So it looks like it probably was one off. I don't want to call it lethal one. I didn't see the re-dagger up that previous turn, but yeah, putting him to 1 means
I'm out of
it's
cards.
almost guaranteed.
Sure. So now he's likely to step something. He's going to step and go Ethereal Lacking.
Nothing but power.
Why wouldn't he shuffle? Oh, there you go.
Eviscerate, Deadly
That's
Poison.
why he
Wow,
wouldn't
okay.
shuffle.
One way to go about it. Fr0zen looking pretty stressed about that whole situation, though.
Yeah.
Finds a Vis Deadly Poison to get him out of a mess. He could have eventually... Well, he could have played it differently on a previous turn, and then even then he had the ability to use that one last board space he had available to shuffle more copies of something.
To his secondary deck, this pretty standard anti-mage stuff getting thrown in there. The one big caveat to that is that he's added questing adventure. So he's taken out the 2 evil cable rats, the High Spear and Togwaggle, a Spear of the Shark, and the Harrison Jones, and has added betrayal, double eviscerate, double questing adventurer.
It does weirdly become more aggressive by adding more removal. It's a bizarre thing to think about, but you can, because you have that extra removal in your deck, you can kind of play with more reckless abandon. You can kind of disrespect what your opponent's doing a bit more.
Spit on their mountain giants.
Whatever you're into, TJ.
With betrayal. Sorry, you didn't let me finish.
Oh, okay.
That sound wasn't a spitting noise. It was the sound that betrayal makes when it hits me.
That's exactly what... Did you record that for the game? That's uncanny.
It did, yeah. I voiced every rogue card. With my mouth.
Including Pogo Hopper?
No, I did not. Okay. I've never been involved with any voiceovers for the game of Hearthstone.
Can we just enjoy
Except
being...
for the specialist video and the Masters bundle.
Can we just enjoy being captivated by this golden pogo hopper real quick? Isn't it majestic?
It's weird. Slightly titillating.
I believe Fr0zen found the questing there off the draw after the mulligan. Yes, he did. PNC just holding on to Luna's Pocket Galaxy as kind of his win condition card in this scenario.
There's never been a 1-mana 1/1 in the game that has made players think more than just pogo hopper on one.
Right.
PNC just leans back his shirt and goes,
What
poof.
to do?
Oh, jeez, what do I do here? It's a 1-mana 1/1.
I mean, yeah, like, is he considering coin pinging it to play around Lab Recruiter? Like, that seems ridiculous to me. Like, coin is one of the best cards, utility cards in Mage in the first place. And like I was saying before, like, turn 1 Pogo, turn 2 Lab Recruiter is not always a good thing for the Pogo Hopper.
Well, no.
When you already have Zilliax locked and loaded in your hand, then yeah, sometimes it is pretty good.
Yeah.
But PNC doesn't have that information.
Come dance to my song.
Such a good pogo hopper for sure. 1-mana 1/1 into 3-mana 2/2 into 4-mana 3/3.
Into
Nice.
draw the rest of your deck.
Draw the rest of your deck. Oh, jeez. What a deck. I'm glad that we're finally seeing some diversity in Americas, though. I feel like we've been behind the other regions in deck diversity for some time.
That's fair. It's just
Asia
been...
Pacific gets hunters.
Yeah.
All of our hunters lose.
Really?
Quickly.
But it's warrior country out in Americas. How do all
It doesn't
How do
matter.
all the hunters
They
lose?
all lose.
What? What? How does that work?
Firebat drew 4 bombs in a row in a game.
Oh, was
To
he
lose
playing
to
Hunter
warrior.
when that happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like it's like the America server goes out of its ways to punish players for being hunters. Like he's wearing a nice shirt. He's on a family reunion vacation. Let's make him feel bad. Well, Luna's Pocket Galaxy just opens up so many opportunities for PNC. It also makes your plays slightly more complicated because you have to make decisions like this where do you play Halftime Scavenger on this board to just try and fight honestly, or do you play Arcane Intellect to pick up 0-mana giants and fight dishonestly?
Right. I mean, why? When you put it like that, why try and play fair if cheating is an option?
What to do?
Legal cheating. That's what Skull of the Minari used to do too.
Yep. Oh yes, we have had that comparison at length.
Time runs
That's what
out on
Caverns
me.
Below did before its 4 nerfs.
And still kind of did afterwards as well.
Still kind of did afterwards, but only against certain
As long
decks.
as it
Yeah.
keeps out errors.
Okay, Explosion, okay. I can kind of see that fitting in.
Yep.
As one of the problems I had with Halftime Scavenger is like, oh, does that mean that you have to ping the Divine Shield next turn to get usage out of the Scavenger? Like, I just never want to ping with this deck.
What's your immediate reaction upon seeing Conjurer's Calling as a card?
What, like as the reveal kind of thing?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be strong, but kind of niche. I actually was on the record as to saying that Mage was not a class this expansion when it first came out. So yeah, I'll hold that L. People want to call me up on Bomb Warrior, which I was actually right about in context, but I will take the L on that one.
How about Bees?
I think Bees is a pretty flexible looking card, honestly.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
You can attack your own minions with it. I only just realized that today. It says choose a minion, and then the Bees swarm.
Oof. A little bit off. Can do some cleaning up here, though. I don't know. So he could go for Sorcerer's Apprentice or just Arcane Explosion and then trade over the Ziliax. Or could just Frost Nova, try and get more onto the board, but you're not guaranteed to be able to deal with things next turn. So...
What? Time runs out on me.
Doesn't seem like the best plan.
Right.
And that is the second Pogo Hopper.
I was going to say, well, it's worth covering that while we were kind of memeing around with swarms of flying insects, Fr0zen just kind of went all the way in on his Pogo Hoppers. He committed Pogo number 2 to the board.
Yeah.
It's for sure a big decision point for him, but this is one of the freedoms that you do have in the Mage matchup specifically, where you feel pretty comfortable that things you play are going to stick. They might get frozen, but they're going to stick. So that means suddenly you have outs to find Lab Recruiters and Shadow Steps and things of that ilk to pay that off later while gaining the immediate pressure of just having your minion in play.
Yeah.
I wonder.
Rip and Myra is not the safest choice here.
Yeah, it's just not enough cards at this point, or the ratio isn't high enough. He's got too many cards in his hand, and there's too many cards remaining in his deck. You know, you really want to hit those key cards that are remaining. You know, in this case, it's the Lab Recruiters and a few other things. In some cases, it's finding the Ziliax or whatever it is. You want to maximize the percentage of finding those cards that you need.
Choose soon.
So I think, you know, hand dump into still security of having a 5/5 on the board, very unlikely to die. And then you can look for a Myra's turn next turn with, oh, he's going to do it now. Wow.
So hand dump just to have a bigger odds of hitting Lab Recruiter. Does the Lab Recruiter.
Yep.
And Barista Lynchin. And Questing Adventure and Walk the Plank in the second Lab Recruiter.
That is about the dream, I think, in that scenario.
Yeah, with Ziliax already played, I can't think of many other cards that he'd want in this scenario.
Right.
He has the Betrayal to Walk the Plank. He has all the tech cards in the matchup.
Yeah, so if those two fans were a Lackey Generator and Togwaggle, then that hand would be perfect.
Well, he took Togwaggle out of the deck.
Of course he does, yeah, you're right.
So, I don't know. I can't think of anything better.
Yeah, no.
Snip, snap. There you go.
Sure.
Found it.
All right.
So unlucky.
I wonder.
And now this is going to get... This is going to become a pickle for PNC. And not the crunchy, delicious kind.
Mm. You ever have pickles on your chocolate on bread?
Oh, gross. That'd be like bringing Derek to cast with us. Derek is the pickle to our chocolate bread.
Time runs out on me.
He's not even here and you're still bullying him. Great by himself and great with generic sandwiches like Raven. But
all right, look,
not great with chocolate and bread.
Real talk. When I'm calling you out on bullying, you need to rein it in a little bit, okay?
They're asleep.
Yeah, good point.
No, they're not.
Screw those guys.
Well, this is about as powerful of a play that PNC can make, and it still just feels small.
Yeah, I mean, I respect the play from PNC. He kind of had to just alpha out as hard as he could and just hope that the removal wasn't there from Fr0zen. It just so happens that, geez, this response is perfect.
Wait, what?
He just picked up the wrong card. He just straight up picked up the wrong card. That's the only explanation, right?
Oh my goodness gracious.
He just picked up Eviscerate instead of Walk the Plank.
And you.
Right? There's no other explanation for that, sure.
Oh my goodness.
Fr0zen, please! I want to see some bunnies. I want to see him do well.
Did he just throw away the game?
What to do?
Maybe.
What to do?
I mean, he still has time. It's just, the problem is, that was the turn where he was able to sweep PNC's board and take away all of his Conjurer's Calling targets.
Yeah.
Now that gets way, way harder to do, and PNC has Conjurer's Calling for days. He basically has nothing but Conjurer's Callings. It's actually similar to the situation, I think it was the last series you cast, when actually like both players were kind of focused on being aggressive and killing each other, whereas I think Psycho could have switched to just fatiguing Pheno by just like killing the last couple of giants.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah, this is... Now, granted, he still has the walk the plank now.
Yeah, but that's only one answer.
It's one answer.
And we know what he's drawing. It's a Pogo Hopper.
But the Pogo Hopper's now a 9/9.
Also true.
So that will challenge a giant, and PNC has used both copies of Frost Nova. I believe those are the natural copies of Frost Nova. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, well, he hasn't played a Cyclone, right? He's just played the one magic trick.
Yep.
Which is that Arcane Explosion.
Yep.
Taking out the taunt, I agree with that. I think he can squeeze in an extra fan here just to get an extra Pogo down on the board. Yep, I like this as well. Maximum pressure, Frost Nova's gone. Just give himself the maximum opportunity to smash through as many taunts as he needs to. Side consequence of the Fan of Knives, it takes away the best possible value trade on the board as well, the giant. Yeah, worth knowing, though, that PNC's deck is pretty jam-packed with heat right now. Everything coming off the top costing 0.
Oh, if he picks up a Frost Nova here with this magic trick.
3 out of 20.
He can't fit in Conjurer's Calling plus Frost Nova, though.
He doesn't look happy, and that's about all I got to go on right now.
He made the Discover options disappear.
They turned into bunny rabbits.
Whoa! Trick in the book.
Wow. That's how you know things are getting desperate. Tome of Intellect ending up being the best choice for PNC. Okay.
Reasonable cold positioning.
Yeah, it's actually pretty solid.
Yeah.
Like I said, value trade has to go into a 5/5 instead of a 7/7 because of that Fan of Knives. Blood Mage, Fan of Knives. We even said that the fans were the only 2 cards that could potentially be improved out of that hand that came off the Myras, and both Fan of Knives came in incredibly clutch.
Yep.
Woo!
But, you know, Fr0zen not looking happy about a victory. Like, it looks like the players' roles are reversed, and both of his winners photos here